All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Restore at 4 here at Somatic Sanctuary, our virtual classroom. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Shivani Jain, and I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner offering these about 30-minute lessons that are taking place seated in a chair. So first off, you need to check your equipment. You need a chair with a really firm seat. You don't want it to have rolling wheels. So it's got, you want 4 legs on the floor, 4 on the floor, and a straight back, or you know, a couple pillows or blankets that you can actually modify the back if it's not a good one to lean back into. So work with what you have. But I also want to just mention that if you've got short legs, you may need to grab a folded blanket to create a platform on the floor to raise your feet, because ideally you want your hips to be higher than your knees, or at least level. And sometimes you can get that just by coming to the edge of the chair. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to this lesson. It's taking your seat and grounding through breath. I think it's a fundamental lesson to all of the lessons that will follow. And the elements in it are things that I keep coming back to throughout the day. And when I say daily practice, it's not that, you know, an hour, you know, in the morning. It's those few minutes throughout the day, you know, to use these particular practices to restore a sense of calm and ease, and just feel how supported you are within. When you feel safe in your body, you're going to feel safe. So it starts in here. We're working through the soma, through the body, to achieve that sense of peace and safety. So as you're sitting, we've all arrived. Just simply notice how you're taking the support of the floor, of your chair, of your surroundings. You may want to close your eyes and get a sense of how you're receiving the support of your skeleton today. Get a sense of the area through your pelvis and where you can feel the clearest contact with your seat. Just taking a time to notice if you're weighted evenly on the sitting bones, or is there certain places where you can sense more pressure and connection. And then get a sense of how you're taking the support through the chair and the floor is relating to your posture and the way that you're breathing. Or more correctly, the way in which your breath is able to breathe you. And sense where your breath is moving. A sense of the shape and the volume as the breath comes in. Notice where you can sense your breath moving freely and smoothly, and you know, where are the places of constraint or hesitation. And then I invite you to take a deeper, fuller breath in through your nose, filling the lower breathing space, letting your abdomen expand, and then exhale through your mouth. Just let go of everything that came before. Feel how the next breath will come in quite naturally in through the nose, a fuller filling. Again, an accentuated exhale from your mouth. Let your jaw and your mouth soften and release all of the breath that's in you. Just a complete clearing, and the next breath will come in, maybe one more time. Then accentuated exhale, using sound or a sigh. And then when you feel complete with that, just come back to a natural breathing rhythm and sense what's changed. This is a practice that I come back to throughout the day. It can help balance the parasympathetic nervous system, which supports the calm and the relaxed state of awareness. You may notice that somehow that doing this small practice has created some kind of change within you. Grounding, clearing, just arriving here. A little more of you here. So in our next exploration, I'm going to share with you a way to use the support of the chair to come to a seated position that's optimizes the support through your pelvis, which is the foundation for sitting, and it's the foundation for moving. So you'll need to open your eyes, and you'll need to move your chair away from a desk if you're in front of a desk, so you have a little bit of space. So get yourself some space here. And good, yeah, get yourself your props if you're finding that you're needing something to get more comfortable. Don't ever hesitate to make that adjustment. So to come into sitting, I'm going to have you come away from your chair. So bring your elbows and your forearms onto your thighs, close to your knees. Your head's going to go forward, and you're going to tip your head forward and down as if you were looking at something. You're not going to be looking at the screen. You're looking at something on the floor, and keep taking your head down till you feel your pelvis start to float away from your chair. Right? And you're going to go ahead and let your pelvis float away. You'll be in a deep squat, unfold, and bring yourself to standing. So you may take a couple approximations to do this. And once you come to standing, just again, let's take a moment and notice, how you're receiving the support of the floor. And if you want to readjust your feet to get your heels a little more under your hips, you can. And when you're ready, we're going to return back to the chair in the same way. Now, this is actually the piece that I'm wanting you to get out of this lesson. And it's a deep squat. So your head goes down, your pelvis is moved up towards the ceiling, and then you return to your seat. We're looking to restore a clear connection through the sitting bones. Notice if you can sense how that shifted the position of your pelvis. Yeah? And if you want to do this without coming completely standing, you can simply just bring the elbows and forearms on close to your knees. Take your head down until your pelvis floats up. Use your pelvis to tilt. You're kind of hinging around the hips like a rolling pin and accentuating that deep squat, and then coming back down. And in this position, we'll be more towards the edge of the chair and not using the back so much, but you can feel maybe there's a little more support there being offered. Great. So now that you've connected your sitting bones to your seat, let's feel into the connection of our feet with the floor. So welcome to close your eyes again and just notice how your feet are relating to the floor today. And then very gently let your right heel float away from the floor. So you're going to shift your weight into the big toes and all the ball joints of the toes. You've got one big toe, all the toes. The heel comes away from the floor and the heel settles back down. Let your breath be natural and let yourself pause to feel your heel and your foot totally reconnect. And then lift your heel again. And then set it back down. Just a few times. In Feldenkrais, we have discovered that small movements can create big changes. And the slow movements really allows the nervous system to register the changes. and to clarify the connections. So don't underestimate the small movements that we'll be making here. We're going to reverse this and shift the weight so you're weighting through your heel and your toes are floating away from the floor. Okay. And it may be tempting to want to look at your foot, but see if you can just allow the proprioceptors, which are like the eyes at the bottom of your feet, and the little points through the joints that register where you're at in space, so they can feel, they can listen, they can see the floor. And let that go. And now shift to the inside of your arch. So you're going to peel the outside of your foot away from the floor. You may notice that your knee turns towards the midline as you do this. Or you may find that you can actually make the movement just through the ankle. Again, it can be very quiet movement. Just looking to slightly lift the outer arch and the outer edge of your foot away from the floor, weighting the inner edge and the inside of the foot, and then set it back down. Repeat it maybe one more time, and back down. Good. And now the inside of your foot, shifting the weight to the outside of your foot. And with this one, it may be interesting to let your big toe flex as if it was moving towards the heel, scrunching up your arch, accentuating that a little bit. And then set the foot back down and take a moment to sense what's changed in the contact through the bottom of your right foot and how that compares to the left foot. And then even notice what's going on with the right side, if that's changed. How you're feeling yourself through that side. And we're going to play with the other foot, but this time we're going to do the whole sequence of movements in the mind's eye. So you're welcome to close your eyes or just have a soft gaze. Collect this sensory information from doing the other side. Bring it into your attention and just think about, imagine what it would feel like to lift your left heel away from the floor. And let your breath come and go on its own accord. Stay relaxed and curious how you can create this movement in your mind. Heel floating away and settling back down. Repeating it a few more times. And then shifting your weight to the back of your heel so your toes can float away from the floor. And come back down. You may notice that you can feel some activation through the foot, just even though you're imagining it. And it's okay, sometimes like the first 2% of the movement kind of comes in. That's okay. Good. And then the third movement of shifting the weight to the inside and the outside of your foot. Just float gently away from the floor, shifting the weight in your imagination. Thinking about the details. And letting that go. And then letting the foot roll to the outside so the inner arch can come away from the floor. Think about how much of your big toe leaves the floor. And what about the second toe? And again, just See if you can bring forward what the experience was like from the other side. What was it like when you flexed the big toe towards the heel, accentuating the inner arch? When you feel satisfied, just notice if the two sides have evened out. And if the quality of contact through both your feet is feeling different than when you began. Beautiful. So, although this is an internal lesson, I do invite you to just open your eyes, and you don't have to look at the screen, especially if you've been on the computer all day, but just look around in your surroundings and just let your gaze be soft. We want to be able to maintain an awareness internally, even though we are relating to what's happening externally. So we can practice that in these lessons. Noticing the outside and the inside, letting your breath move freely. And then when you, next time you bring your head back to center, go ahead and pause there. And we're just going to play with rolling the pelvis. So we've got this nice clear contact through the sit bones. It might be kind of fun to explore rolling back and rounding. Just feeling how that is. And then rolling forward and feeling how the sit bones press into your seat to lengthen your spine and even move your head towards the ceiling. And I encourage you to find how your breath can make this movement even easier, right? How can you reduce any effort through your lower back, through your shoulders, through your neck, and just let your pelvis be the engine. And it doesn't have to be a big movement. And let yourself, in whatever phase of the movement, whether it's the softening and the rounding, or the lengthening, the landing and lengthening, just let yourself pause in one of those phases. It feels comfortable to rest in. If you've been holding yourself upright all day, it might feel good just to slouch back and round and let your chest soften, let your head bow towards your heart. If you've been slouching in a slumpy couch, it might feel good to just feel how your sit bones can press into the seat and how the foundation of your pelvis can very naturally allow your spine to come into this upright. It's just effortless. Feeling the skeleton here. It's a very skeletal movement. And the next time you come back to center, just let yourself land there. And just noting how that movement was for you. And then I invite you to kind of take your chair and let yourself sit back into it. So nice to feel the support from underneath and behind, and just notice how your body conforms to the back of the chair. The sense of how you can really receive that support. And if you really use your imagination, you can kind of just think about resting back in a kind lap, getting hugged from behind. And in this exploration, we're just going to take some time to feel the different breathing spaces Let ourselves land in the breath, in the embodied experience of breath. So bring both hands to the space just below your navel, and you can overlap your hands if that's the most comfortable way to hold yourself. Or you can let your hands spread out a little bit so that the fingertips are touching. But find the way in which your arms can soften at your sides and your shoulders can soften. Just begin to notice the movement of your breath under your fingertips and in through your palms. Coming and the going, the expansion and the settling. You know, there's nothing you need to do with your breath to manipulate it. You don't need to make it bigger or better. Your breath naturally knows it's the perfect amount that your body needs. And you may find by bringing your awareness to this lower breathing space that your breath just naturally starts to expand a little fuller, a little deeper, this lower breathing region. And I'm going to invite you to take your hands and just bring them around to the back side. So your fingertips are either towards the spine or slightly down towards your pelvis. And again, you're just using your hands to listen to how the breath is moving in this lower breathing space and the places in which you can sense it spreading into your back body. Frequently, when we're under stress, we don't breathe so much into this back body, yet it's where most of the capacity for the lungs to expand is residing. And while your hands are there just so close to your kidneys or just over your kidneys and adrenals, just see if that sense of contact doesn't allow another layer of settling to nourish this vital organ. And then when you feel satisfied, you can bring your hands back to your lap and just let it all go. And when you're ready, bring your hands just under your floating ribs. So your fingers will be directed in towards your midline. And just, again, a few breaths, listening to how the breath is breathing you and how it's moving through this middle breathing space. Sensing that movement through your hands, through your fingers, natural, easy expansion. And the settling back. And then you may want to slide your hands a little more into your side body to feel the movement of the ribs. As your breath comes into this middle breathing space and naturally flows out, notice the way in which the ribs spread apart and come together. And again, sensing how the breath is moving through your backside. Using the back of the chair to feel the way in which the pressures change when the breath comes in and when the breath moves out. And then when you feel satisfied, let your hands and arms slide back down into your lap. Just totally take rest. And then when you're ready, bring your hands just under your collarbones. And in this position, it may be nice to have your hands overlapping. There's added benefits to soothing your nervous system. Anytime you're touching yourself and then bringing your hand over the hand that's touching yourself, it has this extra layer of being held. And you're simply noticing the breath come and go in this upper breathing space. Feeling the quality of movement underneath your hands and fingers. And then shift your fingers so they hook just over your collarbones. Just take a few breaths here to sense how the breath comes into your fingertips. Often we don't realize how far the lungs span. This gives you an opportunity to sense the vessel of your breath. And then slide one hand back down below your navel, one hand somewhere around your heart, and just feel the embodied, integrated way in which the breath comes through all three of these breathing spaces. There's really nothing you need to do. Sense the breath come and go like the ocean waves. You can leave your hands holding yourself, or you can bring them at your laps, but start to notice the places in which you pause after the inhale and after the exhale. Noticing if the tempo of your breath and the rhythm has changed since you first began. And just create an invitation here to pause and linger a little longer after the exhale. This is probably already naturally happening, but just by bringing your attention to it, it's likely to enhance the experience. And stay with it. It's said in some of the ancient texts that the mystery of the goddess abides in the space between the inhale and the exhale. Lately, I've just been abiding in the calm that resides in this pause. What's there for you? All the time you like with each breath. All the time you like with that space before the next breath comes in. And when you feel satisfied and connected to this, let your eyes open. Of course, you can still stay connected to this wonderful feeling you've been cultivating. Still stay connected to that pause. It's giving you an opportunity to land, ground. And know that you can come back to any of these practices at any time throughout the day, whether it be the accentuated exhale, a few breaths, or around 10 of 12 breaths, abiding in that pause. Both of these are practices that will naturally bring us into a deeper belly breath that's going to elicit those feel-good hormones and just remind us that we're really okay. It may be interesting now to notice the contact you have through your seat and the floor and your sense of ground, the way in which the floor is supporting you, the way in which you're receiving that support. Maybe sensing the way in which your breath is supporting you. What ways it's moving a little more fluid or fuller. And then it just may be nice to return to standing, just to feel how that's changed. And I'm going to invite you to come to standing in a very gentle, that very gentle way in which I demonstrated at the beginning, which is just sliding your elbows and forearms towards your knees and taking your head down towards the floor until your pelvis starts to float up. And from that deep hinge, you can unhinge and allow yourself to straighten. Just look around and just take notice of how different your connection is in this upright world. And particularly your connection through your feet. One of the reasons I had you return to standing was so that you could sense those changes, and whether they be subtle or profound, I'm curious about what they are. You're welcome to walk around and integrate a little more. When we complete the lesson, you're welcome to continue with it lying down or in any way that you want to bring it back into your day. So this concludes the first lesson in Restore with 4. We're grounding through the breath and taking the seat.